Troy, here we are again for another meetings of the minds, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, the two different opposite sides come together.
Yeah, no, I really like talking to you because, yeah, we have such different ways of running our eBay businesses and kind of online sales, but
Right,
we
right.
we also agree on so much too, so it's just interesting, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's always, and I love the forum for that too, where it's you and I are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum on the what's and the hows that we do things, but the businesses are still the same. I mean, we still got to buy at a good price, we got to get things listed, we got to get it inventoried, we got to
Yep.
ship it out. So there's so many things that are similar, but how you go about it, can be different. That's one of the good things. That's retail and that's eBay. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that oftentimes online you hear people, they just start arguing about who's better or who's best, and I like that we both agree, like, it doesn't really matter how we get there, but both of us agree the whole thing is we don't have to work for anybody else. So however we each need to do that, that's all that matters.
Right. Yeah, it's so funny because people get so ingrained that my way is the only way. No, the best thing I've learned from the hiking community is they say hike your own hike.
Yep.
If somebody's hiking faster or slower, if they're carrying more weight or less weight, you know what? They're doing them their way. So you do you your way. If it works for them and it works for you, they both work. So let's all be happy and continue on our journey. So
And also, I think the thing we agree upon is, the most important thing for anyone is to sell in the way that gets you excited and that will keep
right.
you from burning out. So if you like to sell like the Amazon FBA way and go to Walmart and find retail arbitrage and that excites you, awesome.
Right.
If you like going to thrift stores and digging in the dank, dirty piles, trying to find the weird vintage stuff, then that's cool too.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot to be said for that because, I've seen people that have talked about, hey, I want to go full time and I can do this and I can do X, Y, and Z every week and that kind of stuff. It reminds me of a great article I read many, many years ago. It was called The Myth of Willpower. And it was talking about how, yes, there is something to be said for willpower in the short term or to create a new habit. But if you don't have it already set as a habit, if you're just gutting through 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, after a while, you're going to completely burn out doing what you're doing. And that willpower is going to completely go away. So you really have to set up, I need to draw on willpower to set up a process that then I can manage and then I can relax, or that I can do something that I become interested in, that type of thing. You can't sit there and just draw on willpower and say, I'm going to work 100 hours a week every week for the rest of my life. It's just not going to work. So you have to set things up in a way that it's going to be a life that you're creating that you enjoy living.
I mean, and that's exactly what I guess we wanted to talk about today on the forum. Every so often we'll get someone that comes on and they're like, I'm going to quit. It's my job soon. And
right.
we're now encouraging them to kind of start a diary on the forum, kind of where they're going to follow along or where we can follow along how they're going about going from having a career to basically working on their own and selling online. And we just had one of these guys start that on the forum recently, and we were having a good talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I think it's good when people put it out. This is where I'm going. I love watching the journey because it kind of makes me think about the journey that I went. Actually, again, that's how I found you and Ryan. I was at my job. I was thinking about going full time, and I actually was just doing. I wonder if anybody else has any numbers that talks about what it's like to live full time and that kind of stuff. And actually, because you guys posted numbers, that's how I found your blog, and that's how I found Scavenger Life. It was eBay Scavengers back then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That was how I got involved. So I love these people that are putting it out there. And then we can kind of throw in, you, and I know there's a couple other people, Almasty and us. We do this full time. We can throw, hey, not saying it's right or wrong, but here's some things you want to think about to make sure that this is a life that you're creating, that you're going to want to live, and it's a life that can sustain you.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about each of our stories very briefly? So you were basically kind of living the dream, right? You had like kind of a cool corporate job making 100K plus and good benefits.
Right.
I mean, to talk about that, like, why would you want to go from that to just living at home and, going through the piles and selling clothes?
Right, right. Well, and that's the thing on the outside. Yeah, it was the dream. I mean, I was doing something. Shock of shocks. I was actually in the industry that I went to college for. I was an accountant. I was a CPA. So I was a controller. I was, moving up the corporate ladder. But the higher and higher and higher you go, you start realizing sometimes they're paying you for skills and knowledge, and sometimes they're paying you because they know that they're taking away your time.
Yep.
You look at some of these CEOs of some of these companies and they're paid millions of dollars a year. And are they bringing that back in the bottom line? Probably not. But what are they doing? They're actually devoting 24/7, 365 to that business. And that takes a toll on people. So you start realizing the higher up you go, at some point, it's not because you're necessarily bringing in more money. It's because they know that they're paying you for time that you're not spending doing other things. I was going up and going up and going up, but I'm working at a manufacturing facility that basically it's a 24/7 operation. I start realizing now I'm working 24/7. I've had phone calls from the plant at every hour of the day on weekends. I took phone calls from the third base line of my kid's baseball game that I'm trying to coach at the time. Life just wasn't good. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not enjoying my life. So when they had an early retirement option, I went ahead and talked to the family and they said, yeah, you need to take that because we're not liking who you're becoming because I get so invested in my job. I quit that, did a little bit of eBay, but then I went back to another job thinking it was going to be a turnaround situation. But I started realizing they're not really going to turn around and I'm spending all this time away from home. I'm not liking my life. Veronica, she'd been doing eBay for 8-10 years at that point. And it just started making me think about, can we do this full time? Can I make less money, but own my time and enjoy my life a lot more? So yeah, I just ran the numbers and said, I'd rather make less, but have my time.
Right.
I mean, that was the journey that got me there. And I traded X for Y and yeah, it's kind of hard to go back. I'm kind of becoming proudly unemployable.
Yeah. Well, see, and my story is a little bit different where, I had been working, I was much a lower on the ladder. I was in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And, I could see where this job was going to take me, like if I stuck it out another 10, 20 years, I could see the guy across the room and that's what I would become. And it wasn't bad if you really enjoyed that work, but it just was not fulfilling enough. And I just didn't like the idea of it was just clocking in. And anyway, the good thing for me is that I met Ryan, my wife, or kind of wife. We're not actually married. But,
you're married at this point.
My life partner, and so she was all about it. So we actually jumped off and started to do our own business, not eBay, for 3 or 4 years, and then we added eBay to it. So so I guess I was a little bit different where I was already on my own and being independent, and we already knew how to do our numbers and all this stuff we'll kind of talk about in a bit. But I think our motivations were the same thing. It's like you really have to have the hunger for wanting to just live your own life and being willing to take a risk, because once you do that, there's no more paycheck every 2 weeks. Like that stops, and that's a very scary thing,
Yeah, it definitely can be. And that's going to be my biggest advice of anybody that does want to go full time is, you got to be able to look that harsh reality in the face and have the ability to withstand the storm.
Yeah,
because the storm is coming. Some are bigger, some are small. Like we're gonna have a storm. Something bad's gonna happen here soon.
Right.
It's going to. I know that. Do I know what it is, or how bad it is, or how long it's gonna last? I don't.
Are you talking about like the whole American economy, or just in your own life?
All
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're always, whether it's your own life or it's in your business or whatever, something bad's gonna happen. Something's gonna trip you up.
Right.
And it's the more you've put yourself through some pain and through some hardship and you've come out on the other side, you grow that inner strength to be able to say, I can handle what's going to be thrown at me. Doing everything right doesn't mean that nothing bad's going to happen to you. You just means that you're going to be able to be stronger to get through it.
Yep.
There's nothing in life that's ever going to say, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're never going to have a problem. You can be the healthiest, most exercisingest person, and you could still have a health problem.
Yep.
It can happen. But the healthier and the stronger that you are going into that problem means you're going to come out of the backside of it even better.
Yep.
So that's the whole purpose in life. So same thing in our businesses. Something's going to happen. Can you withstand the storm?
So both of us have kind of jumped off and done this, and each of us have a partner. So I can't really give anyone advice if they don't already have a partner, but I find like having a partner was really instrumental in me doing this, because me and Ryan have different skill sets, but also just emotionally supporting each other and having someone to it's knock ideas around was really important.
Right. Well, you know what? Maybe that's the most important advice we can give to start with. If you're on your own, get a partner, either a physical partner that you can have to help you with the business, or even if it's just things like the forum and things like that, reaching out and having a network. You know, there's that saying that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. I think that's huge. Having a support group around you when you're doing some of this business, I love putting out as much information as I can to help people out on the forum, but I know I get more out of that forum than I give because I've learned so much. And, I've got some connections now, like you guys and Mike and everybody else that have even reached out to me independently that, it kind of gives you that, hey, you're in the same boat. What would you do in this situation? That kind of a thing. So that's one of the best things. If you're going to go alone and you're going to strike out and do this full time, get a network together, get a group together, get somewhere where when you're freaking out or you just have questions or you need help, you have people that you can lean on to help make it better.
Right.
Because if you're by yourself, and you get sick, you ain't making any money.
Yeah. Because I think that was important for me, because it's good to have someone else keep us honest about what we're doing, keeping a schedule. It also gives perspective. So if something wrong does happen, you can kind of put it in perspective, like, okay, this is bad, but it's not the worst thing that could happen, and that there's ways through it. And
I think it's really good because, I can see with you and Ryan, you guys are very similar, but you actually have completely different skill sets. And that's really important. So if you're going to get a group together, don't go find 2 or 3 other people that are exactly like you, because if 2 of you are the same, one of you is not needed. So, like Ryan does primarily, listing and shipping, and you primarily do like photography, prep, and sourcing. So you guys are complementing each other. Veronica and I are that way. She does hard goods and shoes, and I do primarily clothing. So we're not only doing different things, but she looks at things from a completely different perspective. I look at it primarily from a numbers perspective. So, before we're talking today, we had, another, kind of hour-long, quote-unquote, business meeting where we talked about kind of our plans and how we want to shift the business. And she had some thoughts I didn't think of, and I had some she didn't think of. And I'm like, you know what? I like where we're going to start doing things in January, because now we've seen it from 2 different perspectives. So the more people that can see things differently that you have in your group, the better you're going to be. You can take the advice or not take the advice, but at least you've got the perspective to make those decisions, very intelligently.
And I think if you do have a partner, like if you have, a wife or a husband or whatever it is, I think the first step is to really have a lot of long conversations over a period of time of what your life is going to be like when you take that jump. Like, everyone has to be on the same wavelength. You have to really agree, like, this is how we think the life is going to be. This is what we want to do. This is what we're each going to do. And this is what we're willing to, put in. I have seen people who are really into this, they want to quit their job, and they do. And then their like wife or husband isn't on board. And then they're like sniping at them, and there's like too much stuff in the house, and like, if you're not making enough money fast enough, and it's like, well, you got to be on board. We have to agree with what we're doing.
Absolutely. And have those conversations as if you were doing a listing. Note every flaw and potential problem that can come up. I mean, literally going, what do we think can happen and go bad, and where can we go wrong? and have that conversation so that if this happens, how are we going to handle it?
Right.
And don't try to convince your partner, hey, this is the pie in the sky, as we used to say in implementation. Oh, this is happy path. This is if everything works out. Is this going to be great? No, you need to go down crappy path that says, guess what? This could go wrong. This could go wrong. We could have trouble here. And just you have those conversations, and you almost scare yourself and try to talk yourself out of going full time by saying, if those things happen, what am I going to do? And then, be looking at your partner going, and are you on board with that? We may have to do this. This may be a problem. We may have to change what we buy, or it may be 6 or 8 months before we really see good cash flow coming in. And you make sure that they're on board, because again, if you're not happy at home, it doesn't matter what you're doing at your job. And guess what? Your job is now at home, so you can't go to your job to escape it.
And then the other thing is, and we were talking about this on a forum. It was really important to me, and that is like trying to imagine what my new identity is. And I think
I think that was huge.
I think, especially for like an American, it's what we do for work is so important to our identity of how people
absolutely
see us. So like when you go to a party, the first thing any American will ask you is, what do you do for work?
Especially guys. Ladies always talk about, hey, this, that, this, but guys, first thing you say, so what do you do for a living? I mean, it's the first thing we ask. And let me ask you this. What do you say? I'm a reseller.
Right. And we put so much of value on what we do for a living, and we know people judge us for that, Right. And so, that was a big thing for me. Like, what do I tell people now that we're selling old shoes online? Like, what do I say, Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're at a party, Jay, do you actually say that? Do you tell people I'm a reseller?
I actually don't.
Because it's almost got a bad connotation. I was actually watching because Target now, they're looking for resellers. They don't want to sell to resellers.
Really?
So they actually have, I was watching a video where Target and even some other places like Disney, they're saying, we don't like resellers coming in and buying up a lot of inventory. So they're identifying resellers at the Target stores.
Wow.
And they will refuse the sale. If you go in and are trying to buy 40 items, the manager will say, I can't allow this sale to take place.
Wow.
So they actually have a mantra that says, no resellers, KNOW, no resellers, no resellers, NO resellers. They say, look for people that are buying a lot of things. So there's that bad connotation. If I'm a reseller, I sell things online, I sell things on eBay. Yeah, I'm still at that point where sometimes when people say, so what do you do for a living? I say, well, I sell things online. I sell across a lot of platforms.
Yep.
What do you sell? And I just say, anything that I can. Where do you get stuff? All over.
Yep.
Because it's hard. It's just not an accepted. Where it's funny, guess what Walmart is? They're a reseller.
Exactly.
They bought an item from person A and sold it to person B, and they made the money in the middle. We're no different than that.
Right, and and some people, I know I've seen some people online, they call themselves whatever, e-commerce specialists, or they try and come up with these kind of like corporate names that maybe someone might be able to identify with, but I don't feel comfortable doing that because that's not how I see it myself. And that's why ultimately my identity now is more about me and Ryan just feeling good about ourselves, and that's why we came up with names like Scavengers and Trash Shelves.
Right.
And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it really kind of captures to me the creativity, the playfulness, the ability to find trash and sell it, and that makes me feel good. And now I'm less really interested in what other people think of me. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, honestly, you definitely hit the nail on the head. It's, what? When you stop caring what other people think, it's so much freeing. It's so much better. He's like, you know what? I don't care what Joe Schmo thinks of me. I'm happy, and he can like that or not like that. That's okay.
Right.
Because I'm going to do me. So
yeah, I mean, we still have friends who we have been open with, we sell on eBay, and they're, and they can't really comprehend that it's a business. They think we're making a couple $100 a month kind of thing. But, they've seen us where we have these lives that it still kind of confuses them. We travel a lot.
Right.
We don't go to work. I mean, we're kind of like the kind of cool, weird people that they can't really put their finger on. And I kind of love that, you know. It's
Yeah.
kind of a mysterious a life we've made for ourselves.
Yeah. And you probably, a lot of times, have something they don't. You have time.
Right.
Now, it's not to say that you can take time, just like anything else. If you're not spending time listing and getting things done on eBay, you know your business is going to suffer. But you get to pick when that is. Do you know that I've always been an early riser. I always do better in the morning. Years and years and years of corporate jobs, I'm getting up at 5 in the morning, 5:30. In fact, my last controller job, I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
What?
Yep. I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning because it was an hour drive to get there, and I didn't want to fight the traffic both ways. So I used to get to my office by 5 a.m. because it was just me and the truckers on the highway, and then come home. That was the life I'd live. So, that alarm, was it would go off, and I just kind of dread my life. I can't remember the last time I've woke up to an alarm. Wow. I've never set an alarm anymore. I don't. I wake up when I still wake up early, but I don't. I wake up when my body says time to wake up, and then I get up and get stuff done. And just that. I don't hear an alarm clock to start my day. You know how peaceful that is?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about that, but yeah, that is I think that's one of the greatest benefits of being able to work for ourselves, is like you said, we always work hard, but I just love never having to wake up unless I want to. And, so some days it might be 5 a.m., some days it may be 8 a.m., and either way, it's okay.
Right, absolutely. No, it's great. It's a wonderful life.
Okay, so we've talked about talking to a partner or getting kind of a group together so you're not in it alone. We talked about, like, thinking through your new identity so you feel good about who you're going to be. And now I think this is a next step we always tell people, and that is do your numbers.
Absolutely.
How much? I think probably 90% of Americans don't really know how much they spend on their life. And that's the first thing. Even if it's just on a piece of paper with a pencil, write down what your expenses are every month. What's the number that you need to make every month to pay the bills?
Right. I think that's, God bless you. And I agree with it too, because even in other parts of your life, not even your eBay business, know your numbers. We don't teach that in school. I mean, we teach math and everything else, but we don't really boil things down and understand it. When I hear these stories of these kids that are going to college and they're borrowing money for their education and they're going into debt, $100,000, $200,000, for an education, for a job, that if they get that job, they're going to make $40,000 to $50,000 a year and then be saddled with $100,000 and $200,000 in debt. You're not doing your numbers. So since I've got two kids in college, we've had that conversation many, many, many times. I say, okay, what you're paying for education. So what job are you trying to get? When you get that job, what does it pay? And when it pays that, how much are you going to have to pay back if you have to go into debt for it? And doing that thinking and understanding that before you make that decision is huge.
Yep.
And it's the same thing if you're going to go full time. I tell people, and I always say, look, you need to know your numbers. And I like to do things on a weekly basis. I think daily's too small, but weekly or at minimum monthly. What am I grossing monthly? What am I netting monthly? How many items did I have to sell to get that number? And I say, I think you need to track it regularly. That's why I love the weekly forum for that. Now, I've been tracking our weekly numbers since technically back in 13 before I made the jump to go full time. So the key thing for me is if you don't know your numbers for the business that you're currently running and what you can reasonably project that out to be, then you're jumping off the cliff and you don't know where you're going to land.
Right.
So for me, I kind of think about, if you're let's say you need, $5,000 a month net to live. That's kind of what your expenses are. You need $5,000 net to be able to get there. Okay, well, let's assume that you're netting 50% of your gross. So you need to sell $10,000 a month of product to get you that $5,000. Say your average selling price is $25. Okay, well, then you need to sell 100 items every week at $25 to make $2,500 that week times 4 to get to 10,000 to be able to get that 5,000 net. So now you know, hey, the store I'm at now, at the current selling price that I'm at, that's going to give me a reasonable expectation of meeting my numbers. That's the first thing. But guess what? What if you're only selling an average of, $10 per item? I know there's a lot of people that do, they do the bins and they're buying things for $1 and they're selling it at $10 plus shipping or $15 in free shipping. Okay, if you still need $10,000 and you're only getting $10 an item, now you got to sell, what is that?
1,000 items. Yeah.
That's 1,000 items a month. So that's 250 items a week that you have to ship out to make that same amount of money. Or you can be like, Craigslist Hunter over Peter. He's more like $100 an item. Okay, he only needs to sell, 100 items to make $10,000. Now he's only having to do 25 items a week. That's a much better life to live. But in all three cases, whether you're going to do 250 or 100 or 25, your next question is, can I list that many items a week? So let's go to, can I list 250 items every week?
Yep.
I mean, maybe not, for us. So I'll use us as an example. I mean, that's kind of one of the averages that we run to is about, like, on the low end, like 10,000. We're doing 100 items a week. Can I list 100 items a week? Yeah, that's our goal, listing 100 items a week. Then you even ask yourself, do I want to do that? I mean, if I can list an item in 10 minutes, that's not that many hours. But if it takes you half an hour, that's a lot of time to be spending doing listing and shipping and that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's interesting because we're talking about two kinds of numbers here. So if you're at your job and you're even sitting in your job and you're dreaming about going full-time doing this, the first numbers that you should do is just how much does your current life cost you,
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that's when you just, even on a piece of paper, but you can do an Excel sheet if people want, you just start writing down, what do you spend every month? Telephone, internet,
rent,
your food,
rent,
your
mortgage,
coffee, your car
right.
payments, and get that, it's number. And it's like you said, it could be as much as $10,000. When we were going full time, our life was a lot cheaper mainly because we don't have kids. It was like $2,000, So
right.
Whatever that number's gonna be, and then like as you said, then you got to see what do I have to do to pull that kind of money in, and that's when your strategy will change. So yeah, do I want to sell just cheap $10 clothes? Do I want to sell more expensive electronics? And that's when your strategy will be built.
Yeah, I did. The whole basis, like you said, is I call it your burn rate. What's your personal burn rate? What am I spending every month? Know that, and we've all talked about, try to get that as reasonable as possible. So like, we don't have a landline in the house anymore. We don't have cable anymore. We've cut a lot of the small expenses. I mean, our biggest expenses, we live in Denver, so our mortgage is still the mortgage I had when I had $100,000 a year job. We're still making it, but it'll be nice in 8 more years when this sucker's paid off.
Right.
So get a hold of your burn rate, but then by tracking your business on a regular basis, you can say, okay, I net 50% of what I make, or I net 30% of what I make. Whatever your normal store is generating every month, you can say, okay, if I know I'm netting half, I know I need to double what my needs are. If I'm only getting a 30%, I got to triple that number.
Yep.
So yeah, if I need 5,000 and I'm a 50%, I got to get 10,000 gross. But if I'm a 30% net, which is closer to where we are, I need 15,000 to make that 5,000.
Yep. And I always tell people, like, the difference between me and you is like, I mainly just do my numbers on just like a text edit document. It's so simple. It's not complicated, but I know you do it a much more, like, you have Excel sheets with calculations.
Oh yeah.
And you can go either way as long as your numbers are real and true. And I tell people you can Google personal finance. There are forums and blogs where people are talking about this kind of stuff. They're talking about how to save money. And I always tell people that too. If you can bring your burn rate down, you don't have to work as hard.
Absolutely.
And when you have a job, especially in America, it just seems like the idea is you spend as much as people make. So,
that is huge key. And that was one of the things that we did going into this, that we could talk about a little bit more is
yep,
when we would get raises and bonuses and a lot of that, guess what? Rat hole it.
yep,
Rat hole. Mr. Money Mustache,
yep.
that he would say, hey man, live on small.
Right. Or Dave, what's his name? Who's the other guy?
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yeah.
Yep. Now, I'm going to correlate that a little bit. One of the famous lines from Lazarus Long is budget the luxuries first. And by that, I mean, yeah, you can, live on rice and beans and rice for, a year, 2 years or whatever. But is that, once again, we talked about, is this the life you want to live? So if you don't want to live a life where you're, basically a monk listing things on eBay, you might want to budget. If coffee's your thing, budget good coffee. Now, you can even get good coffee at home. Or I know you guys cook, and we love to cook. I mean, we've become really good cooks, so we eat really well for a low price. So you find, Veronica and I, our one big luxury that we like is we love to travel. So one of the things that we do is, okay, that's our one luxury that we want to do. So how do we do that and keep the cost down, but we're still enjoying the life that we live? Hey, I love hiking. You know what hiking costs me? Well, outside of the equipment, not much. Every time I go out to hike, I'm enjoying it, and it's not costing me much.
Yep.
So you want to get your burn rate down, but you want to make sure that it's a life you want to live.
Yeah, there's a woman online that does like a real estate blog. Her name's Paula Pant, and the name of her blog is oh my God, I forgot. But anyway, but the one thing she always says is you can afford anything, but you can't afford everything. So
absolutely.
If your thing is like, I love cars, you can afford to drive like a $50,000,
right.
car, but you can't have the $50,000 car, eating out every night, fancy clothes. You can't do all of that unless you just want a high burn rate.
Right, exactly. It's like that commercial that I love where it shows the guy, he's the country club, and he's got the big house, and he's got all the cars and kids in college. He's like, how do I do this? I'm in debt to my eyeballs.
Right.
Somebody help me.
Yep.
You can't do everything. So you pick those one or two things, that, hey, this is what I really enjoy doing, and you budget that first, and then you sacrifice on the things that don't mean as much to make sure that one thing that matters you can accomplish.
And this is why, going back to when we started talking about this, having a partner, if you do have a partner, these are the things to talk about. Like, what are we willing to sacrifice, and what is really important to us, and are we okay with this? And like for me and Ryan, like, for us, going out to eat is now a luxury. So when we do go out to eat, once or twice a month, it's like a really special thing. And that's a thing we learned. Like, back in the old days, when you're just spending money on anything, nothing's really a luxury because you're just always doing it. Now, everything is a luxury, and it's more special. We appreciate it more.
Absolutely. And I think the more... And it's nice because when you deal with less in certain things, you appreciate other things more.
Right. Exactly. So the other thing is, I always tell people, if you can, like if your job isn't imminently going to end, why not start selling on eBay part-time? So, don't go all in right away. Like I really don't know if I know anyone that's gone from having a full-time job, quit, and then do eBay full-time right away. It's always been, they started a part-time job on eBay selling, having 300 items or something, just to get to see if they even enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, it would probably be good if it's something you're considering doing at minimum of 6 months, but maybe even 12, doing it on the side on weekends. I mean, if this is the life that you want to jump into, if you're not enjoying it after, 6 months, you probably don't want to do this full time because, there's a lot of this now, depending on the business that you want to set up, but especially when you're first starting, it's not rocket science on doing listings. So it's kind of like, gee, I wonder what I'm going to do today. I guess I'm going to dig into a dusty pile of stuff and list it on eBay. I mean, it's the same thing all the time.
So, you're right, because, we always tell people it's easy to sell something on eBay. I mean, it's not complicated. You snap a couple photos, you put a title on it, you put a reasonable price on it. It's probably going to sell. The key here is building a system and a process and putting it yourself on a schedule to actually build a business doing it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I just remember, when I first was doing the corporate job and I jumped into this, what we would shop on a Saturday and I would list on Sundays. And it took me a half an hour to do a listing. I did it cradle to grave. I get it. I prep it, photo it. I'd photo edit it. I'd create the listing. I pack it up and it's ready to go. And then I go do the next one, but I at least got started and I learned the business and I started figuring out how I can make this better, how I can do this, and I at least learned the business. So, and you could go to the extreme, like a Gary Vee would say, it's like, hey man, you've got a lot of time that you don't need to watch television. If this is the life you want to turn to, you turn off the TV and you turn on eBay and you get stuff done from, 8 o'clock at night to midnight during the week. You work on your weekends and you get that business coming, because it's going to come back to, if this is the stuff you're going to list, you need to know what the market's like, how fast do they sell, what are you paying for them, and what do they sell for. Those are critical items to know that says, if I'm doing this and I'm selling, say we did the math and I need to do 100 items, I need to have 100 sales a week to get me my numbers, but you're currently only doing 25 or 30, now your next question becomes, can I do 100? Do I want to do 100? Then you actually have to ask yourself, can I find 100 items a week? So if you're only doing, garage and estate sales on like Fridays and Saturdays, and you're doing pretty good, and you're finding 25 or 30 items, but based on the numbers that you're running, you need to do 100. You got to ask yourself some serious questions. Can I triple the amount of items I'm currently finding every single week to be able to do this? So my sourcing is going to go up 3 times and my listing is going to go up 3 times. Can I even find the sourcing material essentially to create the numbers that I want? And then guess what? Do you have the investment? Let's say you're spending $5 an item. Well, if you're buying 30 items a week, you're only spending 150 a week. You need 100, you got to jump to 500 a week.
Yep.
So do you have the capital whether you're making sales or not? If you got to keep doing, if you're going to sell 100 a week, you got to list 100 a week. You got to find 100 a week. So you got to have the capital to find 100 every single week. So that's why I try to tell people, not only as we talked about your personal burn rate, and I would tell people, have like a 3 to 6 month cushion at least on the personal side. You need to sit there and figure out, well, how much capital is it going to take every single week for me to be able to spend $500 a week for 3 months, 6 months to give this a fair shake?
Right. I mean, the times that break my heart is when someone joins our forum and they're in emergency mode. They're like, I just lost my job.
Right.
There's some emergency where they're like, I need to sell on eBay and I need to make a lot of money really fast. And I know we always try and help people. You always try and give people encouragement. But those people, to me, seem like they're always bound to failure, because this is not a fast, a money right away kind of thing. It's like you said, you have to like set up all this infrastructure, either mentally and physically in your life, to make this work. That's why we always call it building a pipeline,
Yeah,
and building that pipeline takes time. So if you have a luxury to have a job, start it part-time, commit to it for like 6 months,
Right.
You're not going to see big money right away. Make all those mistakes early on, like you go and buy stuff that doesn't sell, you start realizing you're taking photos wrong, learn all that then. And then we always say, give yourself like goals. So for us, it was like list 20 things a day, and just to have those kind of simple numbers to keep yourself honest, and then just to see, it's what it's like after 6 months. How much are you making at the end of 6 months? Will that cover at your burn rate? Do you enjoy it? It's like you said, are things costing you more than if you thought? And then
Absolutely.
Do you need to find different things to sell? And also for us, that period of time when you're selling on eBay, but it's not like an emergency, you can learn what those burnout signs are, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'd say those are the most important things, and I don't think people really talk about that a lot. I see people, they go head first, a million miles an hour. They have like their first a month, they're like making as much as we do. And I'm just like,
right.
That's incredible. But then you know what? I never hear from them again because they've like burned themselves out making that kind of money in 1 month, and they didn't.
Definitely.
And they didn't figure out what the things that they kind of just hated it, you know?
Absolutely. And it kind of comes back to that willpower. And, you know, I love that too. And because here's one of the freeing things, you know, if you've got a job and this is something you're considering doing, just start, get it started, try it. It's like a suit of clothes, man. Try it on and see if it fits, see if it's going to work for you. And if it does, you keep making it better and better and better. And then here's one of the things you start noticing. You start noticing that those little things at your job that annoys you doesn't annoy you as much. Because you know what? You're starting to develop your own little garden. You got your own little pipeline. You're starting to see some fruit bear. And you start going, you know what? I'm starting to get some FU money here going. I guess if the job doesn't work, I have options. And then it's amazing how freeing that mindset is when you go, you know what? If Janice in accounting is going to jump down my throat about my TPS reports one more time, it just doesn't bother you because you know what? You can always say goodbye and you've got another pipeline that you can go to. Now, again, you got to know your numbers, but you start seeing you have options. And I notice that you see that in other parts of your life as well, that you start seeing, look, I can do things on my own. I can take this on and I'm not going to let those outside influences get into my inside and create, you know, pain points. It becomes such a better life when you do that. You know what I mean? You're creating an insurance. And especially if it's something that, you know, you're at a job where you think you may be laid off, man, start now. And you're going to make mistakes when you first start out. I always tell my kids, school never teaches you. School always teaches you don't make mistakes because you got a C or a D. You made all these mistakes and, oh, you're a bad person because you didn't get everything right. The world's not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You know, I tell my kids, I don't mind if they fail. Just don't make it a fatal mistake. So try something on. Go do it. You know, what's the worst that could happen if you make a mistake? You know, we've even done that sourcing. Now, granted, we're a lot better, but sometimes like, it's $2. If I'm wrong, I'm out $2, you know, in a little bit of my time. Now, if it's 2,000, because, you know, now that we're looking at different sourcing options, I'm getting into sourcing options that could cost me, if I wanted to, up to, you know, $10,000, $15,000 in one shot. Well, I'm not making that shot. I don't know the vendor. I've never done anything with them. So let me try them on for size at like $200 and see how that works. And a couple of them, it's more painful at $200, but, you know, it's starting to bear some fruits. I'm willing to do another 2, maybe 3. So start looking for your options, figure out what works, be willing to make some mistakes and learn from your mistakes. Just keep moving forward.
I mean, I like that you say that because, you know, when you work for someone else, you know, people get punished, people get shamed if you do something wrong, you know.
Absolutely.
I think when you work for it yourself, me and Ryan always talk about this, you know, when we have to make a decision and we're really worried about it, like, is this the right thing? I always tell ourselves that it's okay to make a mistake. It's really then how we handle it if that's what we've done. You know, if we've done something quote unquote wrong, the real key is how we handle that. Like, do we keep doing the same thing over and over again, or do we reassess, do a better job? Do we learn from it? Does it teach us something? So I really don't see its mistakes as being a bad thing. It's really, again, how we handle that.
Absolutely. It's an opportunity to learn. You learn a lot from your mistakes. Now, you can learn from success. People say, I learn more from mistakes than I do from success. Well, you know, I'd like to learn from my success, too. You know, so let's not try to fail just to get some education. But when you look at that mistake and you say, okay, here's something that I can learn, now is a glaring opportunity for me to improve. Oh, I shouldn't have shipped it that way, or I shouldn't have made this purchase, or I should have said this in the listing, or I should have took better photo, whatever. You know, you can say, guess what? I've now become better if I learn from the mistake and I make sure that every listing going forward, I don't do that again. I've upped my game.
Yep.
So every mistake is a chance. Because if you're just out there cranking it and things are going well, you know, they always say, you know, sometimes when people are investing a lot of money in a rising stock market, everybody's a genius. I'm so great. I throw money in the stock market and I'm winning. Well, any jackwagon at some time can make money in the stock market, but when it goes down, are you still able to get out, save money? It's the same thing with eBay. You could have gotten lucky your first few times and made a ton of money, and then guess what? You got lucky. Can you repeat it? Can you do it again? Can you do it again? Can you do it again?
Yep.
So you can learn. I always tell people it's good to learn from success and figure out when something sold, why did I do such a good job? But if you have a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Good opportunity to learn. Take a deep breath. Life is not perfect. You're going to go through storms. So what went wrong? How do I make this situation right? And then how do I make sure that doesn't happen again?
And, and to be specific about eBay, eBay has a system where a buyer can give you like a neutral or a negative, and we always get them from time to time. We never go a year where we have just 100% feedback. The thing is, when we do get a neutral or a negative, we really look at it and we see, did we do something wrong? Or is this just a grumpy buyer? And
Absolutely.
If we did something wrong, we'll change how we do things. Like, we're selling electronics that we're not really testing well. Like, we should just stop selling these things,
Right. Absolutely.
until we're willing to really test them. Or we just say, this person's just really grumpy. There's nothing we could have done. It's just a one-off kind of problem.
Yeah, you should always be willing to have the conversation and say, okay, something went wrong, and be willing to look at yourself and say, did I screw up?
Yep.
Doesn't make you a bad person, but
Yep.
did you make a mistake? Is there something you can learn from? Because again, some people say, well, I'm always right and I never have problems. It's always the buyer's fault. Well, you've got, 96% feedback. Maybe it's you, that kind of stuff. So you've got to be willing to have that conversation yourself and say, just accept it. If I made a mistake, and move on. I got better.
Because the eBay buyers that, they'll come on a forum sometimes and they'll be like, this, my friend or me, we just got suspended or banned from eBay. And, I don't know why. It's so unfair. And often when you really start asking probing it's questions, it's because they were doing something wrong that they didn't address. Like they decided to ship late all the time. eBay doesn't like that. Or they were selling things and then people would want to return them and they just would refuse to accept a return, And those are times when, you're not being honest with what the business is.
Right. That kind of leads into, if you're going to go full time, one of the biggest mindsets that you can have is everything's your fault. Everything's your fault. So if something went wrong, it's your fault. If sales are down, it's your fault. If listings are down, it's your fault. You take that on. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it means it's on you. It's always great when you're at a job and you've got that air cover that you can say, hey, the business isn't doing good because the sales department sucks or the product's bad or I'm not where I want to be because my boss is a jackwagon and I can't get where I'm wanting to go. When you're on your own and you're running your own business, it's always you.
Yeah.
The boss is always a jerk and the boss is you are the boss. So I think the best thing you can do is take that on and always say, look, everything's your fault. So it's, for example, we're in the middle right now of kind of two shifts in our business where there's one product line that I'm looking to get out of because the money is just not there anymore. It worked good for the last few years, but now it's so saturated, it's coming down, it's not worth our time. And we found another that we want to move into. Okay, time to pivot. We've got to take that on. We also are looking to try to save, a little bit of time on our process. So we're going to change our schedule so that we can have a life that we like. If I'm not willing to take that on, I'm just going to say, well, eBay's crappy now because the markets are down and I'm not going to do anything about it. No, you need to do something about it. This is your business. Or I'm working too much. eBay just takes up too much time. I'm not going to do it anymore. Or I can say, okay, this is taking up too much time. It's not getting us a return. We want to have a little more free time. How do we do that?
Yep.
So instead of just pointing the finger out externally and saying, eBay, they're pushing me down in search and they're punishing my listings and there's too many Chinese sellers that are killing the market. Well, if Chinese sellers are killing the market, get into a different market.
Yep.
Pivot, take that opportunity. You're the one that's in control. You're steering the ship. So take on that problem and go. So if sales are down, it's on you. Go and do go sell something different.
So I think you bring up a very good point, and maybe we'll touch on this real briefly about what are the common mistakes that new people make. And like you just said, the common mistake I see some people who sell on eBay or even Amazon make is, they when something isn't going right, the blame's always on someone else. And I always tell people, like, it doesn't matter, even if, although I don't think it's true, eBay is pushing you down in sales because of whatever conspiracy theory that you think of. It doesn't matter. I have no control over that. I only have control over what I sell. And if for some reason I feel like eBay is doing something wrong to me, well, then sell someplace else.
Absolutely.
It does not help just complaining about it and having a sob story about it. It's just, it's ultimately, it's up to me. And so, it's like you said, I see some people who sell online, they refused to change. I know in the 10 years that we've sold on eBay, we've sold all kinds of things, and we've had to, because it's like you said, 1 year, like a black pirate slouch boots were really popular. Like we could find them, and we just couldn't sell enough of them. We can't sell them to save our life now, And so we've had to move to other things, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, and I think you've got to be willing to adapt because, that's where, people talk about, there's riches in the niches and you want to be a niche seller. You got to assume that niche is going to provide for you all the time, long term. You know what I mean? So it's almost like I would rather be, there's riches in the niches, but I like to go find new niches. I like to go find something else that's something that's undervalued. Because at the end of the day, as a reseller, we're a retailer, but what we're looking for are things where we're arbitraging. We're general populace or wherever we're buying from is at price X, and we can sell at price Y and make profit Z on the back end.
Right. I mean,
you've got to be willing to adapt.
I mean, there is nothing more kind of sad to me. I mean, because I really feel for these guys. They'll come on and they'll be like, in 2003, I was finding these old Coca-Cola bottles and I could sell them, and they would sell for, $500. And now everyone else has come in and they've just like killed the market and people are selling it for $10 and like, woe is me. And it's like, just instead think of it like, and you took advantage of it when it was hot. You know what? Find that a new thing. Like don't be sad about the old days,
Right. And it's one of those things that you got to decide, am I going to be a full-time reseller or am I going to be a person who collects Coke bottles and sells Coke bottles periodically?
Right.
Those are two different mindsets. If you're going to do this full-time, it's kind of like, for a lot of people that are part-time sellers and you only want to, buy and sell certain items, that's fine. You're happy. Hike your own hike. Do your own thing. Just know that the markets are going to ebb and flow.
Yep.
When you're doing this and you're like, you know what? That burn rate's still there every single month. Sometimes you may need to find a new area that is profitable that you need to still be selling in that can generate that income that you need. So your tastes can and probably should change. I mean, we used to sell, ski helmets. We're in Colorado. We used to be able to find ski helmets. Haven't touched one in years. Yeah. We used to do snow boots. Haven't really touched them all that much in years because the market's dried up. So you got to take that on and you've got to be willing to adapt to the market.
Yep. Now, the other thing that I see that especially new people, the errors that they make is they're like, okay, I'm going to start to sell on eBay. What do? I'm going to go buy stuff. And then I'm going to keep buying stuff, and I'm still buying stuff. And then they come online, and they're like, my house is full of stuff.
Right.
And I haven't really listed any of it. I don't know where to start, and now I'm overwhelmed. And now I've tried to list some of the stuff I bought. Oh, and no one really wants this stuff. But I have like a whole room of the stuff that I just bought. So that's the thing I always tell people. Don't go out and just go on a spending spree and buying stuff. Because I know that's the fun part. It's like the treasure hunting. I get it.
Right.
But you gotta balance it. It's like it's like having a well-balanced meal,
Right.
Eat the things that taste good, but you gotta eat the things that are good for you. So go out and buy some stuff. Like buy at most a carload of stuff. At most.
Right.
But then start to list that stuff and learn if you're buying the right stuff.
Right. Yeah, probably a good mantra we could tell people, if you're gonna start listing on eBay and you've never done it before, there's one phrase to remember. thou shalt have no death piles.
Yes.
If you go out and you buy a carload on a Saturday, you don't get to go shopping again until all those items are listed.
Yep.
When the last item's listed, then you go get to source again.
Yep.
Because, yeah, you can get yourself into that buy. It's fun because they've done studies where the imagined reward of doing something
Yep.
can give you enough of a happiness factor in your brain and in your soul that you don't actually have to have achieved anything. So when people are shopping, they're like, this is great. This thing's going to sell for $100 and this one's going to sell for 50. I'm making all this money. Well, they've convinced themselves in their mind that they've made that money, but guess what they haven't done? They haven't actually made that money.
Yep.
They haven't listed it and photographed it and got it up there. So that would be the one thing is you need to actually do the work and do things full cycle before you go do the next one. So yeah, I would tell people, and probably even when you're going full time to some extent, is thou shalt have no death pile.
Right. And
now cash is going to be a lot more, your capital is going to be so much more of a requirement that you need to say, look, if it ain't listed, you don't get to go shopping again.
Right.
Or at least keep them to a manageable level,
Right, and that term we use, a death pile, we came up with that word because we would have these, where we would have these piles of clothes or boxes of goods that were in the corners of our homes, and they would just sit there for months sometimes. I mean, we had death piles that were sometimes a couple of years old, and we would call it a death pile because it would like suck our energy, because we look at it, we would feel bad, it would make us feel like we weren't doing work, and so that's why we called it the death
pile. I got to admit it, I actually have a little bit on my side because there are some hard goods that I'll do, and I'm sitting here looking at some of them right now, and I know where the other ones are, and I'm going, I really need to get on doing those. I need to, I'm going to have Christmas time off, and with we're going to be kind of doing less sourcing. It's like I just got to knuckle down and say I'm just going to get it done. But at least it's 10 things, so it's not killing me.
And as we become more advanced of a seller, guys will say, well, I buy a lot, and that stuff I store away, and that's like my retirement account, or that's in case things really go bad, I've got plenty of stuff to dig into. That's fine,
right,
as long as you're being real about what those piles are, and as long as you're still putting stuff up. But if you're just buying stuff, that's where the real danger is.
Yeah, because actually, to some extent, we're almost not really death pile, but we're in kind of an inventory management situation, because there's a few things that we've been looking at that we know sell well in the summer and they don't sell well in the winter.
Right.
So we're just stocking those things up, and probably starting in January, we're going to start listing those summer items now. So we've probably got a backlog of 100 things or so that we're going to say, look, we've got some money invested in them, but the nice thing is they're going to make us a lot of money in the summer.
Right.
And kind of that happens with winter stuff. You find winter stuff in the summer, you sit on it, and maybe you don't list it until it starts getting, weather starts to turn and people start thinking about it, and then you list it. But that's kind of death pile management. It's not really a death pile. It's just inventory management. There's no point in me putting those items up when I got stuff that could potentially sell in the next few months.
But, it's like you said, when you go online on a YouTube, like if someone just goes on a YouTube and searches for like eBay haul, there's just like this subculture of videos where people post videos of stuff that they find. And I think it can be valuable. You can see what people are finding, but really it is a thing where unfortunately the titles are like, I spent 15 minutes and made $2,000, and they show you all the things they find. But they didn't actually make $2,000. They found stuff that they think they can sell for $2,000, but
and they didn't get
really?
photoed list. Yeah, they didn't get it photoed and listed in 15 minutes.
Right.
And guess what? I always never. I mean, haul videos can be kind of interesting, but you know what's better? A sell video.
Yes.
That's what I like. You guys. No. This is. I always like that with like American Pickers and the Storage Wars. Like, oh, this should sell for. Well, yeah, what it should sell for and what it's gonna sell for. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever taken a less than full price offer on something. Right. So yeah, I'm gonna put this out there for $100, and guess what? When that $65 offer comes 2 years later, I'm taking that sucker. So. It's great and all, but I like to see, the hardcore evidence of what it sold. And you might get, $2,000 for that stuff over the course of 5 years, or are you going to get $2,000 tomorrow?
Right. Okay,
You know, I'm back.
so I think the end of this podcast is going to be what I'm calling getting to the other side. So this is,
Okay.
if someone is working a job right now, and we've kind of talked about starting the business and all the pitfalls and all that, but I want to talk about why it's good for us,
Right.
personally. So, the other side, once you get this business going, the pipeline, we call it, where we have this infrastructure, we have a process, and we're just like buying things, and we list it and throw it in the pipeline. And I always say on the other side, just cash is falling out.
Right.
It sounds so great. Because,
That's a wonderful image. Cash is just raining down.
right. Well, and so it sounds so like a beautiful image, but there's a lot of work in there. But,
Right.
the other benefits for us are things like, once you're at home all the time, life really does change, and it's great. It's like we talked about earlier, like we cook almost every single meal now.
Right.
And it really changes things. We save money. I think we're a lot healthier. We
Yep.
eat together all the time. I just really love that. That's like one of the real benefits of working full time for ourselves.
Absolutely. You set your schedule. I'm a morning person. I still get up. I'm usually up and kind of doing businessy type stuff by like between 5 and 6. That's me. But guess what? Come 5 or 6 o'clock at night, yeah, I'm kind of done for the day. So I get to work my schedule my way. Oh, it's a nice day. I want to go walk the dogs. Well, I don't have to drive from my office back to my house, get, change clothes, go walk with the dogs, come back, and then go back to the office. I just go, hey, let's go walk the dog. Let's go take a hike. If there's something on sale, or say you want to go to the movies at a discounted rate because we're scavengers, and it's a Monday and you're going to see the 10 o'clock matinee, which is like $5 instead of 15 on a Saturday night, you can do that. And guess what's cool about going to the movies on a Monday? Nobody else is there.
Yes.
So you have those opportunities of, because one of the big schedule shifts that we're going to try and do come January is we're going to start taking Sundays and Mondays off. Right now, Sundays is pretty much an off day. But we want to work to say, okay, let's start having a Monday off. Let's tweak our process so we can get an extra full day. We might do a little bit, but not much. And then guess what? If I want to go do an overnight hike, I leave on a Sunday, come back on a Monday, that's my weekend. And guess what? When I want to go hike in Colorado and I want to stay out on a Friday or a Saturday night, it's busy, it's packed. But guess what? On Sunday night, everybody else has to go to work. They're not staying out on a Sunday night. So I'm getting to enjoy the same places in a better way because I can work my schedule around it. I want to go visit my son and watch him pitch in York, Nebraska. I can go do that. He's playing on a Tuesday. Let's go on a Tuesday. Work the schedule around it and let's go do it. So you have that time freedom to do that.
I mean, I think, right. I think that's a good way to put it. And the way I say it is our lives can be much more spontaneous. Like,
right.
When I worked a job and I had to be there at certain times, my life was not very spontaneous because I would know, like, okay, I'm going to have Saturday and Sunday off, so I've got to cram in all these things to do. Now we have our schedule of what we need to do for our business, but you know what? It can be flexible. And, we, of course, have to be really honest with if the work is getting done. But if we're honest about our work, we can do just like if you said, oh, it's Tuesday. I don't really feel like working. Let's go watch a movie. We could then go and scavenge too at the thrift store.
Right.
I just love that spontaneity in our life these days,
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's it. It's just so freeing. Again, it's a business. You've got to put time into it. You don't ever get something for nothing, but you get to decide when that is. And if you're somebody who likes to, both of my boys like to stay up till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, that ain't me. But if you are that kind of person, you want to sleep till 8, 9 o'clock and then list until 2 o'clock in the morning, you can do that. There's not a lot of office jobs that allow that to happen.
Right.
So you get to have that decision.
And the other thing is too, when your business is up and going, and people might think this is funny, but it's fun for us to find how to be more efficient, So all these things we do in a business, we're always trying to find out ways to be more efficient. And I know you're the master of this, how do we save a little bit more time while it being a better product, better photos, how do we do things better? And that's, important when you're running your own it's business where it doesn't just become autopilot and boring.
Right, right. And, I always like to try to make things as efficient as possible. So to some extent, it's habit, and Veronica's really good about that. She can set schedules and stick with them. But I like to tweak them, and that's kind of where a lot of my, brain power I like to go. Like I said, I used to be this, corporate job and doing all this other kind of stuff. Well, now guess what I'm doing? I'm photoing and listing all day. It's not necessarily that challenging, but for me, the challenge is, okay, I like to set hard challenges. How can I be gone for a month, like on the Colorado Trail, and not have to be sourcing? So how would I set up my business to hire myself out of sourcing? Or how can I set up my business to hire myself out of shipping? So if Veronica and I want to go on a week-long trip, how can I have somebody else still ship for us and still make it a profitable business? Or how could we source on the road and have things shipped to us? So doing all those types of things can still keep it interesting, even though the process is the same. I'm buying, I'm photoing, I'm listing, I'm shipping. But I'm doing different things in different ways. I'm making them faster. I'm making them more efficient. I'm looking for new products. I'm trying to do everything I can as efficiently as possible. And then that's kind of where the fun of the business is.
Right.
And that's how I'm wired. So I like to try to say, how do I make a really solid business out of it?
Right. In like, do I invest in building a storage building on my property? Do I learn to hire someone to take photos for me? I mean, these are big steps in a small business because it takes money and time to figure that out. But that's the fun of it.
Yeah, that was the one thing for us. So when we actually had to absorb, an outside warehouse cost this last year, but we started running into a couple of things I didn't like about it because it was an outside warehouse and I had to go ship the other morning and it was 22 degrees out there, not fun. So I went, what, let me do some looking. Oh, guess what? Now I have an option where I can find a warehouse that's closer to us, that is climate controlled for a third of the price.
Wow.
Okay, so let's go do that. Let's improve the business. So, again, willing to take on risks and make it work, but then how can I make it a little bit better? And, I'm always one that's, if I can make my life 1 or 2% better, every week, that's a pretty good return. So it's kind of having that conversation of how can I do that little improvement? How can I do that little improvement? How can I do that little improvement? And it keeps the mind engaged while you're doing the same thing all the time, but you're making your life better on the back end, and you just kind of keep leveling up.
And then, and then the final thing is, and this is like kind of touchy-feely stuff, is just like we get to learn or to ask ourselves, like, what do we want our life to be like? Now that our life isn't a grind, because we didn't start a business just to make a sweatshop. It's for ourselves. I know all of us always talk about this. Like, our business should not be a sweatshop where we're just hating it. So, since we've gotten efficient, we've kind of learned how to enjoy our eBay business, but then like, what do we want our life to be like? And I see the videos online and it's always about like, this is how to get rich. And I never know what that means. Like, money's nice, but really is like, what do you want to spend your time on? And I think each of us have to figure out what that is. Like, I know some people come on and they're like, I have a bunch of young children. I just want to homeschool them, or I just want to be there for them when they come home from school. Like, that's really important. That's huge. I'm a retired now, and this is helping me fund I get to take more vacations because I didn't have a lot of money in a retirement. I know for us, it took us a while to figure this out, but we really love real estate, and not
absolutely.
So much to get rich, but we live in a little small town and we love to like buy these old buildings and rehab them and try and kind of add something to our community that is exciting for us because we love our community and knowing people and stuff like that. So each of us with these businesses then get afforded the time and money to do something else. I know for you, you've talked about hiking,
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that's, what's the life you want to live? Well, if I wanted to tell my employer I wanted to take, 5 weeks off to go hike the Colorado Trail, they're like, you have that much vacation time. And who knows, let's say at some point I decide I want to go hike the Appalachian Trail. Well, that's going to take like 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
So, well, number one, the boss ain't going to let that happen, not and still have a job in most cases. But, okay, this is the life that I want to live. Now I got two things there. Number one, I've got the job that'll let me do it. So the boss, i.e., well, provided the wife lets me go as well, but I can do that. But then the other side of that is, okay, how do you set up a business that can run without you for that length of time? And that's part of the life that we're living. So we're not as far down the trail as you are when it comes to setting up that other business. And I love that with you guys is we tell people if you're starting and you're in a job, use eBay as a supplementary income because it gives you a little bit of relaxation. When the job's not good, you've got something that's another option.
Right.
You guys have that with, your rental properties that if eBay's not doing good, you've got those as an option. So having those multiple streams of income is huge. So now for me, I want to go down that road is how can I have the business make the same amount of money with less of my time and provide me the flexibility to be gone? That's the life that I'm going to. Some people like, even with us in our business, with Veronica, she doesn't want to do the accounting numbers, but I love doing the accounting numbers. So I chose that and she doesn't. She likes doing a lot of the hard, good things. I don't as much. So she's choosing to do that life. I don't mind running, 2 or 3 people as employees all the time. If I have to, she doesn't. So we're each choosing the part of the business and we're putting the life together that we want to live.
Right. I mean, you could have said it better, but, that's just something to really help people who are going off on their own. It's just like, because we didn't have the answer right away. When we first started, we could not have imagined the life we have now. I didn't even know what I wanted other than just I didn't want to clock in anymore at a job. But that's
right.
Really a nebulous kind of first step kind of thinking. But then after
right.
that, you really got to start asking, like, what do you want to do with your life? Some people love, they love to work out or something, or they love to do some kind of craft, or I don't know,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you make the life, and I mean, there's a good and a bad to it. Again, it's you. The good news is you get to set your schedule and set the life that you want to live. The bad news is it's all on you as well.
Yeah.
So if it's not what you want to have, like, I said, Veronica and I talked, we're like, you know what? We've talked about wanting to take, like, one of our goals was to start taking some Saturday off. But you know what? For the first part of the year, I think we're going to go ahead and still work our Saturdays, but we're just going to start moving to having Mondays off.
Yeah.
The rest of the world has Saturday and Sunday off. Doesn't mean we need to. Let's just take Sundays and Mondays off.
I mean, I guess it's easy for the two of us to say because we've come out the other side and everything's okay, and we have that pipeline and money's coming out. But it is just a money at the end of the day. It doesn't solve problems. I mean, it doesn't solve all of our problems. We have to solve our own problems, and money helps. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's once you start having some money, what do you do with that? And is it going to make you happy? And you got to find things that are deeper than just, I'm making X amount of dollars every month,
Right. What is your why? What is the why you're doing this? If you understand that, a lot of things can come into focus. So if you're doing it because it's an emergency and you need to make money, okay, so for the next year or two, you're just going to crank it out and you'll get there.
Right.
Then what do you want to do? Well, Veronica and I like to travel. We kind of getting an idea of the life we want to live. So now we're trying to transform the business so that if we want to go take a week-long trip, the business can still keep on running.
Yep.
We're trying to figure out those ways of what is it we want to be able to do, and we're trying to transform the business to be that. And it's a lot easier when you're running your own business than working for somebody else, because you may want to travel for 4 weeks a year, but you only get 2 weeks vacation time. Well, you just can't do that. You can still travel for 4 weeks of the year. Now you just got to transform your business to make the same amount of money and to get there. So that's the best thing and the scariest thing about being in business for yourself is, you can make it what you want, but it's all on you whether or not you get there or not. So you just got to dig down, dig deep, work hard, work smart, figure it out, and you can go get what you want to get.
Yep. Well, Troy, it was really good talking to you. I hope that we help people. I always tell people who are new, it's like this. It's not like, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of steps. It's kind of like there's some general principles. There are some definitely pitfalls that you can avoid, but you really just have to get into it, make your own mistakes, and listen to other people and learn from them. And you don't need to go online and buy one of those subscriptions or
Right.
ebooks or courses that cost you $500 where they're going to tell you all the secrets.
Right.
Any normal person would probably be able to figure all this out on their own. They just have to get started,
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you bought a course to get
Nope.
to do this. We didn't buy a course. The course we learned was by doing it.
Yep.
You gain a lot by doing it. So like I said, go out there, get started, and like I said, if you're thinking of going part-time to full-time, think about listening to this a couple of times and say, okay, do I know my numbers? Am I going to like the life that I want to live? What is it I'm looking for? Why am I doing all this? And you can go get there.
Yep. And if anyone is totally new and doesn't know either of us, and this is all just like what's going on, we always hang out at scavengerlife.com/forum. And
Absolutely.
That's where, every week a lot of us post our numbers. So as you can see, real life numbers of what people are making. None of us are making $100,000 a week. We're making more reasonable amount of money, $1,000, $500, $2,000. Each of us make the money we make, and it's all just real, and it's work.
Yeah, and if you're new looking to get started, or if you're part-time looking to go full-time, the forums are great. There's no judgment out there. Nothing's a stupid question. Even if some of us have seen it a million times, we're going to answer it again. I mean,
Yep.
I love the community that you set up there, because people can ask a question that they may be afraid to ask in other places, and everybody's there to help.
And I will real quick, and I will say, even though we've been selling online, I learned something almost every a month from somebody. They came up with a cool little hack, a cool little trick. They do something better, or someone asks a question in a way I hadn't really thought about. It makes me question my own way of doing things. So it's always a learning process.
Absolutely. Like we said, you and I are on different ends of the spectrum, and there's a whole bunch in between. So there's always something that somebody's done that you haven't, that you can learn from. So
yeah, awesome. Okay, Troy, have a good day. All right.
All right, Jay. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Bye.